Okay, so today we're diving into something, well, kind of different. We're looking at a church that's gone completely online, New Covenant International Church. Honestly, when I first heard about it, I was like, really? Can that even work?
It's a question many of us would ask, right?
Hmm.
How do you replicate that feeling of community of shared faith without a physical gathering space?
Exactly. But New Covenant, they seem to be pulling it off. And their whole approach to this digital ministry, it's really got me thinking differently about the possibilities. But before we get into that, let's give everyone a bit of background.
Absolutely. So we're talking about New Covenant International Church, led by Bishop Dr. Dwight D. Elijah and Pastor Dr. Bernadette Elijah. Now, they weren't always a solely online ministry. In fact, before 2020, they operated in a much more traditional model.
Right, more in line with what we typically think of when we picture a church. But then 2020 happens, everything changes.
And like many institutions, churches had to adapt, and quickly. But what's interesting about New Covenant is that they seem to recognize the potential of the digital space as more than just a temporary solution.
They saw it as an opportunity.
Precisely. They had ministers and leaders based all over Florida, Colorado, you name it. The digital world allowed them to connect these individuals, and by extension their congregations, in ways that transcended geographical limitations.
So they essentially built a sanctuary without walls.
You could say that. And this idea of utilizing technology to bridge distances and bring people together in faith, well, it's not exactly new. Think about the impact of the printing press on religious texts, or later, the radio.
Right, spreading sermons and teachings to wider audiences.
It's all connected. New Covenant is just tapping into the latest evolution of that, the digital age.
And they're not just doing, like, basic online sermons. They've got a whole lineup of events happening throughout the week. Let's see, we've got Saturday worship, Tuesday night Bible college, Wednesday night science of living, and Thursday noon school of prayer.
It's a comprehensive approach, isn't it? Catering to different interests and needs within the community.
Totally. Like, take their Saturday worship service, for example. They start at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's not just about passively listening to a sermon. Dr. Dwight, he really delves into biblical principles, spiritual practices.
And there's a real emphasis on fostering that sense of community, even in a virtual setting. They have communal prayer, praise and worship, even celebrate the Lord's Supper together online.
I was wondering about that. How do you even begin to replicate those shared rituals in a digital space? It's fascinating.
It's about adapting and finding new ways to maintain those connections. And from what I've gathered, it's been surprisingly successful. People share their prayer requests in the chat. They see familiar faces on screen. There's a sense of togetherness, even if it's virtual.
That's incredible. And I imagine for those who maybe were initially hesitant about the online format, that must be really reassuring.
Absolutely. It's about meeting people where they are and showing them that faith and community can exist, even thrive, in the digital world.
Makes sense. Okay, so Saturdays are for worship. Then you've got Tuesday nights dedicated to, what was it, Bible college?
Exactly. It's a deeper dive into Scripture, perfect for those who really want to expand their biblical knowledge.
Appealing to the inner scholar in all of us.
Exactly. And speaking of appealing to different facets, on Wednesdays they have their Science of Living class. This one's interesting because it blends faith with practical life skills, business advice, branding, investing, things you might not typically associate with a church setting.
Right. It's like how to live your best life, both spiritually and practically.
Precisely. And this kind of holistic approach, it's something we're seeing more and more in contemporary faith communities.
It's smart, really. You're acknowledging that people's lives aren't lived in a vacuum. There's the spiritual side, sure, but there's also the day-to-day, the practicalities of navigating work, finances, relationships.
And New Covenant is saying, we're here to support you in all of it.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered Saturdays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. What about Thursdays?
Thursday noon school of prayer. This one focuses on, well, the power of prayer, how it can bring about personal transformation, connect you to something greater, and even manifest tangible change in your life.
Which brings us to something really intriguing that was highlighted in the materials we received about New Covenants, the testimonies, people sharing their stories of answered prayers, personal transformations, even encounters with the divine. What's the significance of that, would you say?
It's about demonstrating the power of faith in action. These stories, they offer a glimpse into the possibilities that open up when people embrace faith and allow it to guide their lives. It's about hope, about healing, about finding your purpose. Things that resonate deeply with people, regardless of their background.
Absolutely. And speaking of things that pique people's interest, there's a lot of buzz surrounding 2025 within the New Covenant community. They're being quite tight-lipped about the specifics, but it seems like something big is in the works.
It's a clever strategy, really. Building anticipation, creating a sense of excitement and mystery. People want to be part of something, a shared experience, and New Covenant is doing a great job of fostering that.
So to wrap things up, we've got this church flourishing online, offering a blend of traditional religious teachings with practical life advice, all while fostering a strong sense of community. It really makes you wonder about the future of faith in an increasingly digital world.
It does, doesn't it? New Covenant's journey begs the question, what are the boundaries of a church? Can a digital congregation be as meaningful, as impactful as its physical counterpart? And perhaps more importantly, how might our understanding of faith and community continue to evolve in the years to come as technology plays an ever-increasing role in our lives?